How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to Jacked Up Fishing. Well, if you watched my last episode, we were doing a maintenance on my lower units on my Yamaha 350s, and unfortunately I popped the top screw on my port motor. Water came out of the lower unit. Oh no. If you haven't seen that video, I'm going to put a link right here for you. Go ahead and click that link, and it shows you how to do the maintenance on the lower unit. So today I'm going to pull this lower unit off the boat. I'm going to go ahead and look at the seals, see what we got, and then I might take it to the shop and have them pressure tested, because there's 4 seals. I've read about it online. It seems like there's a common problem with the shift seal where the shift tube goes down. So I'm going to just have that checked out and then put it back on. But I'll show you how to line up everything and then put it back in. All right, here we go. All right, so I got all my parts right here. All my tools that I used, they're right here. There's nothing moving them right there. That way when I come back, I know right where everything is. He said he'll have it done in 2 days. All right, she's in there, ready to rock. Going to the shop, get pressure tested, all the 4 seals put in there, and we'll make sure it's right before we put it back on. I'm gonna give her a new coat of paint and everything. And when I get it back, I'll see you then. All right, on the way home, picked up these 2 spare outboards. They have no lower units, but I picked up my lower unit from the shop. I'm gonna go ahead, fix it up, put it on. I'll show you how I do it. All right, there's my mating surface for the lower. This is the lower unit. There's a couple things that we need to do before we put this lower unit on to ensure that we can get it back off next time and make sure everything's lubed up, because these things tend to corrode with salt water. So first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to put grease on the shaft and on the splines right here, right on the splines here. Grease on the shaft and splines really good. Also down here, they've already done it actually at the shop, but inside here as well, because that's where the water pump tube sticks into there. And I also just do all the seals just to make sure that they stay nice and lubricated so they don't dry rot. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now, and then I'll shove this lower unit back up in there. All right, so what I'm going to use, I just use some high temp multi-purpose grease. It's automotive grease, pretty much red grease. If I use it, I just put it on all the rubber just to make sure it doesn't dry rot on me. It feels good. I'm trying to keep everything as clean as I can. I want to do the shaft. The main thing is the splines. You want to get this nice and lubed up really well. I've seen these shafts stick in motors where you can't get them out, and it's a bear. And like I said, on the shifting thing. Now before you put the lower unit in, always make sure it's in neutral by turning the prop shaft. And that is in neutral. So we're in neutral. All these seals are nice and coated, all the rubbers. There's a little rubber there. Good. Okay. Now this is the tricky part here. You're gonna line up this spline with this. That's the shifting linkage there. But also you have to get these splines in the top of the motor, in the power head. All right, this lower unit is a bear too. It is got some weight. So we're gonna make it up in here. Oh. Of course, everything's greasy on here. I'm trying to line this shift linkage up. I've got it. Oh. Can you give me a nut, bud? Whew. No. All right, putting one of the nuts on to secure it. Whew. It's got one in there to tighten it up. Yeah, we're gonna start them all. All right, got them all up on, got them pushed up in there. This lower unit is heavy, buddy. All right, guys, so I got a few bolts in. They're not all the way in. This is a fly-by-wire engine. So I have my son Cam in the boat. He had to power up all the stuff. We put the turn the ignition on the motors, and I'm gonna have him put it in gear just to check to make sure everything's working before I finish bolting everything up. I mean, so make sure it's in neutral. You push the whole lower unit up. You might have to twist the drive shaft just a little bit just to get the splines to line up, and then you get it in there. Push it up. It's really heavy. So I'm gonna have him do it now. Go ahead, Cam, put it in gear. So I heard it shift in gear. Now I'm just gonna twist the prop shaft. And you know it's in gear. Go ahead and go out. I heard it. Now it's in, put it in reverse. Yep. Back to neutral. All right. Good deal. So that's all there is to it. Put it up in there. I'm gonna finish bolting these off, and then I'm gonna show you a couple of other things that I do before I put my prop on, which is also splines need to be hit up and a little bit of grease everywhere else, just to kind of keep everything from corroding, keep everything nice and lubed up. But I'll show you when I get back to doing that. All right, so I checked everything out. Everything's good. Now I can go ahead and tighten it down, make sure everything's legit, nice and tight. So I'm gonna start with this first one. That's pretty tight. All right, so I got all 6 bolts in all around here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So now I'm gonna put the bolts in from underneath the anode and the steering plate here. This is a steering plate for, usually if they have a tab, you can adjust the steering in case it's pulling one way or another. We don't have that because we got hydraulic steering. We're also we're gonna put grease on all these splines and all in this area just to keep it good. Make sure nothing rots and it's easy to, and it keeps it lubricated. All right, these last 2 bolts to put in, and they are right here. So what we're gonna do is I'm gonna put this first one in. I think they're the same size. Let me just make sure. They're not. I think the longer one goes here, and then the shorter one, which obviously got some pollen on it, goes here. Now there's a bunch of grease on this, everything on these bolts, so that's good. We don't want anything to be locked up when we go to pull it out again. So it's 14 millimeter. I'm gonna use an impact on this one. Get it up in there and I'll tighten the hand, tighten it. All right. And this just does it to hand tighten it, that way I know how tight it actually is. Yeah, good, nice and tight. Now I'll put the anode and the shift or the steering plate on there. That's the same 14 millimeter. And as you can see, the reason you have the anode, look at all this. When I bought this boat, this was in a marina for a week and a half in the Bahamas. That was caused from another boat being plugged in, and the electrolysis in the water caused this lower unit to pit like this, that fast. It doesn't take long. It does not take long. They make testers too that you can put in the water. To test to see if there's any kind of current. If you have a big boat and it's in the water, I would highly suggest you get one of them testers just to make sure, because even on my big boat, I used to have a sport fisher. If you have electrolysis in the water, the shafts, the rudders, everything that's metal will corrode. It will pit quick. It doesn't take long. And you're buying new shafts and new parts under the water. All right, so I got both of them in there. They're all nice and tight. Before I do anything more, I'm gonna sand down this lower unit and clean it up, give it a little shot of paint, give it a fresh look. That way it's done. Gave my lower unit a couple coats. It looks pretty good. We'll put some grease. Got a little finger of grease. I'm just going to put it on my prop shaft there, make sure it's all good. Give it a nice coat. Nice liberal coat, I guess you'd say. And then, this pollen's bad. Thrust washer. This right here on your thrust washer is the line catcher. It usually catches the fishing line if you go through some fishing line. So you want to put it on there, and what that does is tries to save your seal. If you can see it right in there, you can see it right in there. It kind of saves your seal if the fishing line gets wrapped around it. It sticks right over your seal there. Don't always work, but it does some of the times. I'm going to put the prop back on. Just like that. And there's no need to crank down crazy tight on there. Just get it nice and snug so you can get your cotter pin back in. I usually just use an adjustable wrench, that way if it's in the water and I need to get it off, so I'll go all the way tight. And maybe back off like a quarter. There you go. Last thing's the cotter pin. See if you can get your cotter pin in. Just like that. I usually turn it to the long ones. This way so I can get a good fold over. Alright. Good to go. And that's all she wrote. We're good to go fishing again. Tuna trip next week. Let's do it. All right, you see how I did that? I took the lower unit off, checked it out, dropped it off, put it back on. Everything seems to be working good. And you see what happens when you do periodic maintenance. If I hadn't checked that and did this next tuna run next week, been bad news, guaranteed I'd have popped that lower unit. So make sure you check your lower units often. You know, even just cracking the bottom plug to see if there's any water in there at all, just to see what's dripping out, see what the condition of it is. That don't take anything. Also, if you're buying a boat, that's a good thing to check as well. All right, well, I appreciate everybody watching. I'll see you next time, and tune in next week for an awesome fishing video. All right, Jacked Up out.